YouTube, and some people watch it as we're taping it on Thursday morning.
You came all over here. Now go over here. They can hear you.
I'm learning about how to use the mic.
Just go like this. Sound very hot and sexy in the morning.
Ooh.
Here we go. Bonjour. All right.
Where was I? Okay, so we're on YouTube Live now, but some people download it and then watch the whole thing. As you know, the broadcast is on Saturdays and Sundays on Cairo, and then Sunday night it's released as a podcast. And we are, as well as Cairo, stunned at how many people listen to the podcast.
Tens of thousands.
And Terry, I wanted to tell you, he asked me to submit the show to the James Beard Foundation for their Broadcast Media Awards, and I did it.
And
So-
they said, "Who the hell are you?"
They said, "Who the hell are you guys?"
Did you
out
tell them
there?"
we were on the air for 22 years?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah,
You made all the keynotes of like, come on, man. Where
Come on,
where have
man.
you been?
yeah. So that's pretty darn exciting. All right, should we rumble?
We should. Ready?
Oh, yeah,
go ahead.
and Tom is right under the volcano on the Big Island, just outside.
But he's
of
playing
Kona.
golf. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
The lava's supposed to go around Kona like this. We hope it does.
It's going slowly. I mean, unless it has big giant bursts, I think it's all good. And if it is, then jump in the water. That's the safest place there
Yeah, yeah.
because that's where the lava cools off. So, I mean, it would be not that I want Tom to pass away or die, but it would be hilarious if he went toasted. Yeah, just kidding. It's a chef joke. He was seared. Ha!
Dark.
I know he would do exactly the same kind of joke.
I
so-
know.
All right. Ready? Welcome to the Hot Stuff Society radio show.
Good
I'm
morning.
Terry Rotiro, the chef in the hat.
You sure are.
And my co-host today is Pam.
Hmm. It was Miss Pam the last time we did
Miss
this.
Pam, sorry. I was going to say Chef Pam. Miss Pam. Oh, wow.
I'm
so
glad
excited.
to be here with you
Tom
on this
Douglas
side of the mic.
decided to go golfing in Hawaii. So you guys know how much he loves golfing and how much he loves Hawaii too. So two combined in one. I think that's a great time of the year when it's snowing or so in Seattle. And oh, it's not snowing in Seattle. By the way, it's not snowing in Seattle.
I know. Look, our guests all made it.
I
Thank
mean,
you
everybody's
for
here.
braving the
Come on.
weather.
Thank you so much, you guys, for coming this morning.
Brave.
We changed our day of taping from Friday to Thursday morning. So now if you want to see us live on YouTube at hotstuffsociety.com, you need to remember it's not Friday, but it's Thursday morning, 9 to 11 we tape.
Yep.
And you can hear us live on Caro, Saturday and Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. And or you can just download the podcast and listen to us in the shower like I do every week.
Right.
That's a long shower. Just kidding.
And
Or in the kitchen.
a reminder that we're in Hotel Andra, and it is beautiful to stay overnight
Oh,
here.
Yes, it's gorgeous. I mean, it's a great way to do a staycation. December, downtown Seattle. Right now, it's great. It's not too crazy busy. There is no
Right.
snow. You can come down here for the weekend, park in, stay at the Hotel Andra, which I think you get a discount if you.
You do, and they've got wonderful holiday rates. now.
Yeah. And, eat at Lola, have the pastries at the bakery across the street, go shopping a block away. I mean, there is everything around here. So that's what they call it downtown. All right. We have a big show today. And what else am I supposed to say? We're going to keep, we're keeping a close eye on the news about the volcano on the big island of Hawaii, just because Tom is there. Not just because Tom is there, but because it's a big news. And we have plenty of friends in Hawaii, and also Tom is there.
Mhm.
Oh my God, that would be making the news. All right, lots of terrific topics today. We have Alicia Vermillion from Executive Director of Seattle Met Magazine. She's going to join us and give us some background on how she keeps up with the Seattle dining scene. And I'm curious to know because I can't keep up.
I know she is busy and finding all the new places.
And I mean the new places, the old places, it's a
So
busy world out there.
busy.
We're also going to learn all about oysters for Robert Spalding from the executive chef of Elliot's Oyster House. He's going to be with us and talking about oysters. And I love oysters. I don't know about you guys, but we live in the perfect place of the world to have delicious oysters around here. And this is the season as well to have oysters. So, and we're also excited to meet with Julian Tham, who has created quite a steer as a chef at Sushi from Scratch. So I can't wait. I had dinner there, and that was really fantastic. So,
Were you there for a press party? Because you
Yeah.
can't get a reservation. It's impossible.
oh, you just have to know somebody who knows someone who might know
rub it
somebody.
in, rub it in.
Oh, I mean, no, I'm just kidding. Yes, I was there for a press party.
Immediate.
And of course, we're going to play Rob with Love and Food for Thought Tasty Trivia. But first, our test of the week. Miss Pam, what is your test of the week? Because you were sick 2 weeks ago with COVID. So
I'm making up for it.
were you sick or were you just positive?
Just positive, no
Yeah,
symptoms.
so you didn't stop eating.
No. My taste of the week was a pitch perfect risotto that I made last night. I had 2 cast iron pans going, one for the rice and stock.
Uh-huh.
And in the other one, I was dry roasting mushrooms and speck. I didn't put any
Wait. Hold on 1 second. You were dry roasting mushroom. So you just put them on the sheet pan in the oven?
in the cast iron on the stovetop.
Okay.
No oil, and let them get really brown. And then I chopped up the speck, the cousin to prosciutto,
Right.
and stirred it in. And that was just enough oil to help caramelize the mushrooms further.
So this was regular mushroom, button mushroom?
Cremini,
Yeah,
yes.
cremini, and then
Yeah.
sliced?
Chopped. Coarse
and
chopped.
like a duxelle idea?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
And of course,
So they sweat right away.
right away.
Yeah.
But toasted the rice with the onions, and it was just magnificent. And I cheated to get it a little bit richer with a scoop of ricotta at the end and the Parmesan.
Dang, that sounds delish.
What about you?
That sounds really nice and light for dinner.
I know.
What was the movie?
I had
that
I
what
had
was
an
the
apple
3-hour movie?
salad with it.
What was the 3-hour movie you watched after that to digest that? No. Me, it would be a soup that Kathy made again. And we've been making soups a lot lately. Most importantly, I've been making stocks, chicken debone, making the stock, like I said last week. I mentioned that as well. And I have 3 quarts of stock in the freezer plus one we use for
That
the
feels
soup.
good, doesn't it?
Oh,
to
it's
have
so nice
stock
to put
waiting?
stock away. I mean, literally, stocking it away is a good idea. But anyway, vegetable soup, diced onion, carrots, celery, kale, black beans. We had some black beans. So I put that in the soup. And the piece of resistance was I took some chicken breast and I finger cut the chicken breast, which means, the breast is shaped. Well, you know what the breast looks like of a chicken. And then you slice it in diagonal, lengthwise. So you have those finger,
Nice.
like chicken finger.
Mhm.
And I took those, seasoned them with a little bit of ras el hanout, a little bit of spice blend, and took brown butter and then put those pieces of chicken in brown
Oh
butter.
yeah.
That was super delicious. I mean, and it doesn't take very long to cook. So put them in brown butter, and then I took the chicken out of the pan, finished with capers, put all that together, and put the chicken and the caper together on the side, and then add that with the soup to start, and then the chicken with the salad after that. Chicken and
Beautiful
capers.
meal.
Super delicious.
Wow.
That's
Right.
my taste of the week. Just a regular taste, but it doesn't. And believe me, it might sound French or whatever, but it's very, very easy to make. It's not complicated, and it's ingredients that you can have in your fridge at all times. So, if you don't have capers, use a little bit of red wine vinegar or lemon juice, and you'll have the same kind of context of idea: brown butter and acids. Sounds good.
Sounds very chefy and delicious.
It's not chefy. I was trying to stay away from that. It's so simple.
No, but it's using those ingredients very creatively.
Yeah, very simple ingredients. No big frou-frou, and it's chicken and vinegar basically.
Yeah. Vinegar needs more attention.
Yes,
'Cause it
I
really
keep
brightens
mentioning
up
it
a meal.
because it's an ingredient you have in your cupboard, but I bet you most of you never use it for cooking or very rarely. And it's something you can use every day. It enhances any last minute flavor. All right, coming up next, we're going to play an early round of Rub with Love, Food for Thought Tasty Trivia. I don't know why Pam keeps moving it around, but we're going to do it on the early side of the show. All right, stay with us on Cairo 97.3 FM.
All right.
Why are we doing it on second show?
Because Jillian, the other two guests were already scheduled, Robert and Alicia, and so I put Julian at the end. That's why.
Cool.
All right, my darling Janet and Anne-Marie, come on up to the mic.
He's not. That guy's not responding. I'm afraid he might be a no-show.
Then we're going to talk about Jacques Pepin.
Okay. Sorry, Anne-Marie.
You're going to introduce him, please, Chef.
And then what is the other name?
Janet.
Janet.
What order should we go in today? Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, somebody listens to the show. And you know what? We made that up. Then I like to go first. That's been an institution. It's just it feels better. I go first, so we show the contestant how to play, and then Tom finishes because he likes to be at the tail end and have all the assets on his side. Doesn't prove to be very often very good, but it's okay. It's the way it is. All right.
Thank you so much.
We are back in the kitchen at the Hot Stove Society radio show, located in Hotel Andra, the corner of 4th and Virginia, downtown, beautiful Seattle, Washington. Come on down and do some shopping and do some staycation in downtown Seattle. It's a beautiful place,
We recommend it.
and we recommend it. Yes, it's good for your health and it's good for the community and the economy. How about that? All three of them.
Love it.
It's also good for your spirit, which is more important than anything else. All right, Pam, we're at that time of the day where you changed everything. It's going to be a weird show for me.
I know.
But
I'm excited.
We're playing Food for Thought Tasty Trivia on the second part of our show today. And let me see. We have two contestants from the audience, Anne-Marie
Very brave, Emery and Janet.
and Janet.
Thank you so much.
Both are very brave to keep it. So remember, get very close to the mic. See how close I am? And so, are you guys ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
Get close to the
ready.
mic.
Close enough? Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
There,
Ready
that
as I'll
sounds
never
good.
be.
All right.
I love that necklace.
So, Pam, why don't you explain exactly what we're going to be doing here?
Each contestant gets 5 questions, and there will be a loser that gets the most wrong.
And the writer,
and-
what do they get for playing?
Well, they're both going to get the Harvest Trio Rub with Love sets
Ooh.
for being so gracious to participate with us today. Thank you.
Oh yeah, and I
you.
forgot to mention that the show, this segment is brought to you by
Our fabulous Rub with
Rub
Love.
with Love. You can
product
find
line.
in many stores all around the country. Okay, here we go. I'm supposed to read this thing here.
Yes, you are.
Food for Thought Tasty Trivia is brought to you by Rub with Love Spice Blend and Sauces. For all the cooks on your holiday shopping, oh yeah, don't forget to buy that for Christmas as a gift. It's a beautiful gift. Rub with Love gift sets on, go get it at tomdouglas.secure.3. Oh, I can say that.
That's
Just go
enough.
to tomdouglas.com.
Yep.
You'll find everything you need to know. Or here, after the show, you can do a little shopping. Who wouldn't want to give Krabby gift set?
There's
You want
a gift set called the Krabby set.
Krabby set.
I'm
And
not
what's in
getting
it?
that for you though because you are not crabby.
No, but I could become Krabby if the set is kind of cool. All right, Krabby set. I like this. You can find Rub with Love in Town and Country, West Seattle Thriftway, many of different locations all around the country. Tony's and Meat Market in Potomac. I'm sorry. Tony's and Meat Market and in Potomac, Maryland, all the way to the
All the
East
way.
Coast. This Rub with Love is everywhere.
So Tom's family can buy it on the East Coast.
So
All right, Chef, are you ready for?
I am
question
ready.
number
So I'm
one?
going to start and show you guys how it's done. Maybe not the right way, but I'll show you how it's done anyway.
Number one, what vegetable is also called courgette?
Zucchini.
Correct.
That's a French word. Ooh, I got
I
so lucky.
wanted you to look good today.
She makes me look really good right
Really
now.
good. What term is used for slow cooking meats like duck or pork to cook the fat out of them? What term is that called?
Are you looking for confit or cooking its own fat? That's confit, but
N-
cook
The
slowly,
process.
rendering.
Exactly, rendering. Number three.
That's what I should be doing right now,
I know.
rendering my fat instead of being here.
Which dish from Spain traditionally includes saffron rice, seafood, chicken, chorizo, and peas?
Oh, I love one of the contestants, Janet, knows the answer and she's very excited. Janet, you want to tell it for me?
I think it would be paella.
Yay,
That's right.
Janet! Does she
You
get
got-
the point for that or you?
No, I get the
Oh,
point. But
okay.
she said it for me. I was going
Uh,
to say it, but I might as
Number
well.
4. What was the name of the first book by Chef Anthony Bourdain?
Kitchen Confidential.
You are on a roll today,
Yes.
sir.
You know, I must say a quick note. It's a book that I start reading, and about half third into it, I just put it down going, I can't read this anymore. It's too close to, there's too many bad things in here and swearing and everything. And I was like, I can't read this. This is too, I don't want
Dark.
to degrade my job like that. And then I went to Hawaii and I took the book with me and I started reading it again and I loved it all the way
Wow.
to the end.
He's a
But
good
it
writer.
took me a little break.
Yeah. It's a
Kitchen
hard one.
Confidential. If you haven't read it yet, you should read it.
My husband and I read it to each other.
Oh.
Fabulous.
What a
beautiful.
way to experience that
Yeah.
story.
It was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And finally,
Yes.
this is a tough one. What manufacturer introduced Pringle potato chips in 1969? Think behemoth.
Kraft,
Close.
Nabisco,
You're
Nestle.
Procter and Gamble. They're probably
Oh.
all the same company
These people
now.
don't do food anymore, do
I
they?
know. Not
All
what
right,
we
Procter
call
and Gamble
it.
it is. Okay, 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
Now it's gonna be Janet and Anne Marie. You guys are ready for this? Remember, get close to the mic.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Janet, number 1.
Oh.
What is the most commonly used oil in Chinese cooking?
Sesame.
Good call.
Yeah.
Peanuts a little
Yeah.
more widely
Yeah.
used. Number 2. What is the main ingredient that makes bread rise?
Yes.
Yay! Number 3. What year did the first Taco Bell open? 1962, 1975, or 1995?
62.
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
She's on the roll. Anne Marie's like, yes,
I'm
keep
in
going.
trouble.
Keep going, keep going.
Number 4. The Iron Chef America TV shows were based on Iron Chef show that originated in which country?
You want to cut? Wait. You want to converse with together here? Or do you know the answer?
Japan.
Correct.
Yes.
And finally, you are a spectacular competitor, but you're not off the hook. What is meant by the term al dente in Italian cooking?
Well, you
Oh,
don't
well-
want to overcook it. Just
You're on to the exactly the right concept.
I have a hearing. The coaching from the,
The coaching,
sideline.
they're good. Your friends are good.
Anne Marie, do you have an answer?
I'd say
To the
tooth.
to the tooth.
Yes.
To the tooth.
That's exactly the translation.
Correct.
yeah.
Wow. 4 out of 5.
4
We're
out of
tie.
5. Tie with Terry.
All right, Pam.
Anne Marie, bring it home.
All right.
I shall try.
What U.S. state is Creole food most associated with?
Louisiana?
You got it.
Yes.
What food was rationed after World War II ended, but not during the conflict?
Jeez. Peanut butter?
The companion, bread.
Oh. Oh.
Which tea is very popular because of its health benefits?
Green tea?
Yes. Number 4, what is the hottest part of the chili?
That would be the veins.
Exactly. Called the placenta, the thick, fleshy vein region. And 5, from what does gelatin come?
It's from the bones of animals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have a three-way
We have a
tie?
three-way tie.
That's a good morning.
Wow.
Thank you so much for playing.
So since
And,
we
you
have a
know,
three-way tie, normally we would have one more question. Do you have one more question that we could use as a tie, and we tap down the faster person that gets the prize?
what is the main ingredient in falafel?
Chickpeas.
Yay!
I just go ahead. Yes, Anne-Marie won.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful, Anne-Marie. All right. Oh, wait. I got to close this. I'm not just playing.
That was a good game. No, you're going to lead us into welcoming Alicia.
Is it next? Oh, my
Yeah.
God. I'm so not. Please,
Coming
Sean.
up next,
don't forget to cut all this up. Let me see. Coming up next, Seattle Met Magazine Eat and Drink executive editor Alicia Vermillion will be with us and talk about the food scene in this area. Stay with us on Caro 97.3 FM.
welcome.
Good morning, Alicia. No, on this side.
Sit here.
Do you want to sit or stand?
Sit.
Sit.
A long day.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Long day. Did you come from afar?
No, but my kids have school delay.
Oh,
Where are they? You should have brought them.
There was a minute where that was going to
That
happen.
was a possibility.
They would have done terrible on that quiz.
What school district is delayed today?
It's they go to private school,
Oh,
but Shoreline is also delayed.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Is
Tis
there
the,
snow up there? 'Cause we didn't get any.
I get ice. There's ice. Tis the season.
yeah. I
This
mean,
is our beautiful audience. You know, I'm Pamela. You know Terry. Sean is our
Hi.
TV director.
It's been a minute since I've done this.
Yeah.
You've classed it up.
Yeah. I'm really into the birch tree winter wonderland look. And you saw Annie, Chef Annie,
Yes.
try to give you breakfast.
She did.
But you
Yeah.
said okay.
Probably a poor decision. But
Well, thank
So,
you so much for coming.
what are we
he's
doing?
not, he's not doing anything. So we're going to count him as a off. So maybe Alicia can do another segment.
Well, she's on for 2,
Right.
and then Robert's coming, but we can finish up with Jacques Pepin
Okay. Cool.
and shallots. Your favorite subject.
Shallots.
She's got a life.
She does.
Busy one.
Somebody has a life out there.
Oh, it's very glamorous.
Yeah, exactly. All of us
Yes.
glamorous.
What are we talking about?
All right, we are back in the kitchen. Come on, we are back in the kitchen on Caro 97.3 FM at the Hot Stove Society here in the Hotel Andra, beautiful part of downtown Seattle. Our next guest is Alicia Vermillion from Seattle Met Magazine. Hello, Alicia.
Good morning.
Nice to see you again.
You too. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been a minute. It's been a COVID minute,
Yeah, a couple
which
hours.
is a couple of years. Just go a race, and then let's move on. No, it's been a little while, but it's so nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
We thought about bringing you on, Pam did, because we're always curious about. You guys talk about food every minute of the day and write about it every week and every month and so on and so forth.
With great, I might add investigative reporting. You see a lot of, short quip, Instagram, TikTok things, but thank God you go deeper.
That
you know?
is very kind of you to say. I'm sure my boss wouldn't mind if I did more TikToks, but thank you.
Spread your wings wider and just not so deep.
Terrible dancer.
Yeah. So anyway, it's very interesting, and we know it must take a huge amount of time. So the first thing we wanted to do is, first of all, describe your work, but most importantly, how do you manage to go through all those restaurants, all those eateries that are available in just, I mean, if we just take the Puget Sound, which includes Bellevue, Kirkland, the whole east side, the south side,
Oh,
the north side, and Seattle. I mean, that's thousands of
And
restaurants.
she's skinny and she has good
yeah,
skin.
which is the other part. I'm
So-
not quite sure how that works.
I have my moments and my moo-moos. No, that is a great question. It is a very imprecise art. I feel like I'm a walking database. And if I ever got hit by a bus or raptured, that I feel like I should, all this information I would never get I would stay. I would still be here. You know, there's all this information that sort of just sits in my head, and I'm always trying to add to the database, which is a really unglamorous way to talk about a thing that like we all love, right? It's weird when the thing that you love becomes the thing that you do for work. It's amazing, but then you sort of have to be really like, if your friends want to go to dinner, you're like, sorry, I would prioritize. These are places I need to get to, and if I'm going to dinner with my husband, doesn't matter if he wants a burger, he has to get what I want to try. So it is a weird way to approach something that, you know, this is about pleasure and enjoyment. You know, it's not doing your taxes. This is something, you know, that people love and that I love. But it is a light. Like I think about it all the time, and where do I need to go and where haven't I been? And you know, I eat takeout in my car, especially the last few years. I mean, there are some days when I'd open my car door and just this aroma of fried chicken, you know, because we weren't going into restaurants. And if you drive to West Seattle to get some fried chicken, like it's gonna be really sad by the time it gets back to my
Fried
house.
chicken is fine. Leftover sushi, maybe not so much.
So it's not as glamorous as probably people think, you know, but it is a lot of fun and it means a lot to me. But it is, I mean, I think about it day and night because there's so much happening, right?
So much happening, and as Terry said, in so many neighborhoods.
Yes.
I mean, I feel a tad sad that downtown is kind of quieted down, and the neighborhoods are vibrant.
Yeah.
and you're sending people out to the neighborhoods. And
Yeah, I
love
mean, we had
that.
this big push for downtown restaurants in recent years, and you know, I think that's still happening. But obviously, a lot of folks are looking around now and
Right.
saying, "Well, people are working. You know, they're in their neighborhoods." I feel like
Right.
we're entering this golden, you
Yeah.
know, another golden era of neighborhood restaurants.
which is cool. I mean, I think neighborhood need to have restaurants to stay
Yes.
as a community center, you know, and because I think restaurants are community center, but you know, it's definitely been very, very prominent in Seattle. So it's very cool. So you go, I mean, you're also a mother, a wife, and I mean, you have all these other jobs. You're not just going to restaurants. And also, many restaurants are limited to lunch or dinner, and some of them just dinner.
Yes, and just a few days a week
So-
because it's so hard to find staff.
Right. So your calendar is, do you do like 2 restaurants a night sometime?
I have done that. It really diminishes your enjoyment of the second restaurant.
Right.
I have found sometimes if our travel editor and I are working on a project, we've been traveling around the state this year and putting together kind of the
good.
most exciting restaurants in the state. And there are some nights we've done 3 or 4. There was one day I think we did 5 that was spread through the afternoon, and it really is, you know, unfair disadvantage for restaurant number 5. You know, and you always try when I do the multiple restaurants, I always try, I'll just take a few bites and then I'll go in the next one. And I just can't do, you know, I can't
No,
do
you wanna
that.
eat.
If I did, then that food is probably not that great.
Right.
So
I have done that many times,
yeah,
and you're right. It never comes out right.
it seems
It
like
never
it's
comes
a
out
great
like
idea.
the
in theory.
idea of like a couple bites here and a couple bites there. Heck no, you're in a good restaurant. You're like, oh, I want to eat that. Oh, I want to try that. I
Right.
want to
That's
try
the
more.
magic of it, right? That's why you're
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
I mean, I've done this many times in New York, especially in New York, many times. Multi-course dinner in more than one restaurant. I'm like, who does that?
Wow.
Why?
That's big time.
Yeah. I
The
mean,
multi-course restaurants too. You can't just swing in and have an appetizer and a drink and kind of
Right,
get the lay of the
right.
like. You're sitting down, you're
Yeah,
shelling out,
You're in.
You're in. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the commitment is 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and you go to another one afterward, and it's crazy. But anyway, yes, I sympathize to that. So, what is your trick? What is your trick to stay on top of what's going on? Number one, how do you stay abreast of what's happening in the entire city?
Oh man, Instagram. What did people do? How did people do this job before social media? I mean, truly, it's such a great tool, or, you know, I'm sure all the other platforms too, just to see what people are excited about and kind of see what other people's meals are looking like. Much as I have lots of issues with Yelp, I certainly look at Yelp too. You can kind of see the rooms. It's a good, I guess it sort of helps me figure out what to prioritize. Because sometimes things, actually the restaurant that we just named our restaurant of the year was kind of, it's called Maripili Tapas Bar in Capitol Hill. It was sort of this little quiet place that it took me a minute to get to. And when I went, I was really astonished. And then there's some restaurants that have all this buzz and hype, you know, and you get there and you're like, okay. Yeah, so you have to be careful. You know, social media is not everything by any means.
Well, social media, the good thing about social media is it depends on who does it.
Yes.
If it's somebody who works in the place,
Yeah.
or if it's actually a customer.
Yeah. I mean, I follow the cooks and chefs because anyone they're excited
Right.
about, I'm excited about.
That's a good method to do. Follow the chefs.
And
Follow the money. But wait, no, follow the chefs.
do you have a different criteria for casual versus multi-course and more formal, or
Oh, that's a great question. I guess anything should be, they should be the best version of what they're trying to be. If they're just trying to be a noodle bar, they should be a great noodle bar. And, if maybe they're a little slow and, bringing if you go get your own water, that's
Yeah.
what it is. But, if something is a $200 tasting menu, and
You
also
want everything that comes with it.
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
no, I agree.
also the price point. It's so hard right now too because it is so hard for restaurants, and again, so hard for staff, so hard for supply shortages. And you go to places, and I've had some real funky service experiences
Mhm.
that, and I think in another lifetime I would have maybe held that against the restaurant, but these days I don't think that's fair. But then you also want to prepare people, if you don't mention that because you're trying to be classy and someone goes and it's kind
Right.
of, out of
Yeah.
whack, like if you don't mention that stuff, people assume that it's all hearts and daisies and sunshine and wonderful, so it is tricky. Like I was writing this piece once, and I think they brought me like a big shared salad and no utensil to share it with. And I was trying to just mention that, just sort of here's a little detail. And I couldn't word it without sounding like a huge jerk. It was 2021, and it was really an era of like, support
yeah.
restaurants. It's still an era of support restaurants,
Yeah, it's a
but
great restaurant.
it sounded mean. But then if you don't mention things like that, you're not really preparing people to go
Yeah,
and
that
have
is a tricky balance.
what a realistic
Well,
2022
if you're going to
experience is.
spend $100 per person for dinner,
Yeah.
and the service is wonky,
Mhm.
let's just call it that. If the service is wonky, 2 years ago, this stuff would have never flied.
Mhm.
People would have chewed you down like nobody's business.
Yes.
So you're right. There's definitely a big change that has happened. There is a time that we have to give for forgiveness and for, get your stuff back together and all. Everybody's on board with that. We
Yeah.
understand that. However, the price is still, it's even higher now than it was
Yes.
before because
Yes.
of,
Yeah, the
everything is
prices have
costing more
gone-
and everything.
Yeah.
Totally
Crazy.
justified.
Yeah.
But
But
there is a time and there's a ceiling, and I think this will show through once people get used to that. It will show if changes don't occur and people don't up their game.
yeah.
It will become a problem for them, I think.
I think you're exactly right. And it's harder for my household, I mean, just inflation,
Yeah.
if we're going out to a meal, it's harder for us to afford it than it was a year ago. So when those, those things, you feel them more acutely when it's an even bigger, ask,
Right.
or not sacrifice isn't the right word. What are words? I don't know. I'm a writer. When it's harder to get out to dinner.
You're a good
We're-
writer.
We're used to very good service in the States,
Yeah.
pre-COVID, I guess, still today. But I mean, we used to a fairly good service that comes with the money we pay for dinner.
Mhm.
If that's changing drastically, and we know why it's changing. I was in the restaurant business. I'm in the restaurant business. I know what it takes. So I understand all the dilemma, but there is a time to leave the dilemma, and then there's a time to change.
Yeah, I do feel like educating, just reminding people. I think if this is not, if you live in the restaurant industry, that staff shortage is your whole life, and if you don't, you can be very unaware of it. So
Right.
this is like the mantra I stick in everything I write. It's like, just remember, guys, it's really hard.
No, of
Fine
course.
stuff.
And it is. I mean, this is for real. This is definitely one of the hardest time. And I've known. I had a restaurant for 35 years. It's the hardest time I've ever seen for finding employees and for, economically, it's been extremely hard on restaurants. So, do remember that and do give them a break and support your restaurants. I mean, there is only one solution to that. If you don't support them, they won't be around. If
Yep.
they're not around, you're going to be crying that they're not around. So
Yes,
remember that,
100%.
support your restaurant. But it is definitely part of the scheme of quoting restaurants and rating them, most importantly. So when we come back, let's go over a list of all the delicious restaurants in the area.
Oh,
A list.
boy.
Are you gonna make me rate them?
No, we're just gonna talk about how many new restaurants you have on your mind, for example,
Oh,
right now
Into that.
for the end of the year, for people to go and check it out. It might be too late because December is already here, so most restaurants are already packed.
Go in January when it's
January
quiet.
is a good time to go.
We're talking to Alicia Vermillion from Seattle Met Magazine here on Caro 97.3 FM. Stay with us. Great job.
Welcome, Elliot's people. Are you good back there?
Hey, chef.
Okay.
How you doing? Look at this guy. He's not hot. Big T-shirt, like it's July. It's not hot outside, is it?
Not really. No. Got
Oh, you walked up. Good for you.
Good
walked
for
over too.
you.
Those
You
were-
did?
those
'Cause
were
your
you.
office-
Yeah.
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 Right here.
Yeah, my windshield was frozen this morning. First time
Yeah.
this year.
Everybody doing good? How'd Annie do on her hand? Yeah, good. Did she do a good job? Yes. All right, Annie Elmore.
Chef Annie, good one for you again. Where'd she go? She disappeared. She might be under the table. She's so short.
Oh, yes.
First we eat, and then we do everything else.
Yes, I read that one.
I would believe in that strongly. All right. We are back in the kitchen at the Hustle Society radio show here in downtown Seattle in the Hotel Andra.
You've got the guests really
I
on
know.
point today.
Very, very
I
nice
like it.
crowd. Thank you guys for showing up today. That's fabulous. We are doing a new taping on Thursday now. So I'm very amazed to see how many people showed up on a Thursday.
It's
Maybe-
fabulous.
Maybe we should change every week and do it on a different day. Surprise them. Just kidding. All right. Our guest is Alicia Vermillion, Executive Director of Seattle Met Magazine. And we were just talking about how hard the job must be to just try to eat in all the restaurants and try them and see and rate them on top of it in most cases because people just can't stay away from rating. I wonder when that's going to go away.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk. A lot of newspapers across the country have retired the star system. They
I'm
feel like
so
it's,
tired of starring and rating. It's like,
people love it.
They
no, I
sure
know,
do.
I know people love it, but it's kind of anyway.
Reductive.
That's
yes.
another subject. That would take another segment.
I'll come
I
back
think.
to talk about that.
Yeah. Because I think it's I personally don't. I don't go with rating.
I
but-
want to see you and Pete Wells kind of duke
Oh,
it
man.
out. You know,
No, but talk
Yes.
about restaurants for what they are. I think to me, I've always said, I don't need food critics. I can be my own critic, so I can have someone else critic me. But I want reviewers that knows more than I do about food to review me for the food I do, and talk about, oh, you know that pork belly wasn't seared properly, or my wine was cold when it should have been. It was a Cabernet Sauvignon. It was bone cold, like out of the fridge. Or, I mean, things like that make sense to me. To your experience as a diner.
I think what's hard is, you can have an experience one night and it's going to be a different experience the next night. If you're
Right.
a book critic or a movie critic, we're all seeing the exact same thing.
Right.
And it changes night to night, minute to minute.
Good
So,
point.
something that could have, had been amazing a couple months ago. I had an amazing experience the next time my friend went and had a different server or the kitchen's having an off night. That's what's hard. These are not hard and fast
Right. Which
situations.
I think is why a deep review is better than a critic. I mean, I don't need to know how many stars you're going to give this restaurant because your experience, like you said, today might have not been. Now, the experience can be explained by just doing a deep review.
yeah.
You explain what's going on. Hey, and you sign at the end by saying, hey, it must have been an off day or
I think of it like storytelling a little
Yeah,
bit. You should sort of give
exactly.
someone what the story is of this place. And, if there are a couple hiccups along the way, that happens and put it in context.
right. So we didn't bring you on the show to not talk about actual restaurant because
yes, let's hear it.
our listeners are probably going with a piece of paper and a pen right now, and they're ready to hear. So spit it out. New restaurants in the Seattle area from Bellevue, Renton, Redmond
Yeah.
to the North End to South End, Tacoma.
Boy, I was thinking this morning on my way here, what restaurants have opened? It's like when, to use a really antiquated metaphor, when you'd walk into Barnes and Noble and suddenly forget every single book you wanted to buy. A couple places I mentioned earlier, our restaurant of the year is Maripili Tapas Bar on Capitol Hill, where Cafe Press used to be.
Oh yeah,
And it's Galician, the chef, Grayson, her heritage, her grandmother immigrated from Galicia, her father from Aragon, both in Spain. And so she was a pastry chef for a long, actually, first she was a bodybuilder, which is amazing.
Ooh,
And a nutrition, she studied nutrition. Then she was
what a good combo.
seriously amazing. So then she became, was mostly working as a pastry chef. And then she just got really connected to her heritage and really dove into Spanish food. And we don't know, I mean, I think in America, we tend to think of Spanish food as paella, as,
Right.
we talked about earlier. And there's so many different facets and regions. So it's cool to see a really like regional or personal take on Spanish food. Up in Greenwood, there is a lot of good fried chicken in this town. There's a lot of okay fried chicken in this, pretty good fried chicken in this town, but Chicken Supply in Greenwood is Filipino style fried chicken. And it's kind of, lemon and soy and garlic. It's just really light and crispy. It stands out in a world where
In a crowded field.
yeah, in a crowded field, exactly. There's all this great, so many great Chinese restaurants opening on the east side. All, north to the south, I feel like there are a lot of really legit chains in Southern California that are opening, that are expanding here because there's an audience for it. Actually, I just went to Takai by Kashiba, Shiro's new spot. It's not really his spot. He kind of tapped someone who was one of his apprentices and kind of set him up on his own stage.
How was that?
In Bellevue? It was fantastic. This
Is this sushi?
Yes, it is an
Okay.
omakase. You are, and there's no, if you go to Shiro's restaurant in Pike Place Market, you can order a la carte. And here you are sitting down and you are getting, I want to say it's like 19 little bites. Yeah. It's really lovely. It's definitely it's very posh. They've got, I think the person next to me, I did a tea pairing, which was really great. If you're not a
that's
drinker,
nice idea.
it was really nice. And it's really interesting teas. And they're talking about the tea to me as if it's, this is this most recent harvest. This is a blend, just speaking about it more in terms you expect to hear about for coffee or wine. And it was really cool and reminded me, I have a lot to learn about tea, you guys.
Do they offer both tea and alcoholic?
You could do either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went the sober course because I
Sure.
wanted to remember this meal. But then the person next to me, the Somm came by and whispered, "Oh, this is a $5,000 bottle of Grower champagne I got at auction and poured her taste." And I was like, "Whoa, hey." So
Was it tasting like $5,000 champagne?
she seemed to enjoy it. She didn't leave any behind. So you could kind of choose your own adventure there in fanciness, if you will. But it was it was definitely. And Shiro came in like halfway through the meal, and I thought about like when I took my kids to Disneyland and Mickey Mouse shows up and everyone's like, he everyone sat up straighter. There was this ripple. He went and shook everyone's hand.
He's
love
so
that.
gracious.
Yes.
Such a beautiful man.
A
Yeah.
beautiful man.
Yes. So that's pretty exciting. I think if you love sushi.
And where
and
is it located?
It's in downtown Bellevue.
Okay.
Um,
So we done Bellevue and we've done Greenwood.
yeah, it forced me to get out geographically.
Anything
Okay.
in Tacoma?
There's a lot happening in Tacoma, and I haven't actually been lately. I know, let's see, in Bremerton, Manu Alfau, who was
yeah.
here. Yeah, he's a great chef. He opened kind of a cool pizza spot in Bremerton.
Wow.
I think right now also a lot of great chefs are sort of going to the cities surrounding Seattle. Up north, I love anything that Schubert Ho is doing in Edmonds.
Yeah.
He's got a new Italian spot up there. Sankai, another sushi spot. Can you tell I like sushi? Another
Yes.
sushi spot that
It's a good way
that
to eat.
he's a partner in is really wonderful. Let's see what else.
What about vegetarian? Has the wave crested, or is it just that traditional restaurants are adding more
I
vegetarian?
think traditional
items?
restaurants are definitely getting better at vegetarian, but there's actually a lot of vegan that is. Or
Vegan.
I think vegan is more of a commitment than a vegetarian, restaurant.
sure.
Like it's easier to sort of go both ways if you
Yeah.
are,
Vegetarian is a lot easier than vegan. Yes.
Yeah. But I actually just did a piece on vegan restaurants a while back, and there's a great like donut shop called Doughjoy.
Those guys are cute.
yeah, Doughjoy,
Yeah. They're festive. Yeah, they seem like someone to be on your radar. A lot. Let's see. There's a lot of great Korean barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
Baekjong, Baekjong. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it super properly. Opened in Linwood, and this is a spot that LA. I think that people in LA go bonkers for, and Los Angeles is a pretty, they have high standards for Korean barbecue. So they just opened in Linwood, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
There's a great, yakiniku, which is sort of the Japanese tabletop grill situation. There's a great spot in Northgate called Niku Niku. And it's sort of the fancy steakhouse version of Korean barbecue, where they come and grill it
I know, I
for
love
you
that.
so you don't mess it up,
Yeah.
which I always appreciate.
No, that's really good. I love those restaurants.
Those are also great for kids. My kids are very picky eaters. They actually don't like restaurants because they have to go to so many and give them a
Oh.
tabletop grill, give them some fire and some chopsticks and make it dangerous.
And then
And
they're so
They're
happy.
into it. Yeah.
That's awesome. What about Seattle, Washington?
Seattle.
The actual city of Seattle.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Gosh, I know where to even. There's actually a great Argentinian bakery and pizzeria that just opened on Capitol Hill. It's the Boca Bakery and Pizzeria by the same folks as the Boca restaurants.
Oh,
I'd never had Argentinian pizza before.
no.
It
what
is
it?
like deep dish, very with sort of that ring of crispy cheese around the edge, like Chicago style or Detroit style. I mean, it got me into. Don't get me started talking about
Chicago
pizza.
style.
So yeah, you have this great, crispy cheese, but it's just sort of white cheese with just onions on top.
Yeah, don't
Just-
get me started. That's not even a
Oh.
pizza. That's a stew on a dough.
Oh,
Anyway, that's me. Hey,
Yes. So no, it is. I've never had that type of pizza before. I don't know that it's been elsewhere in Seattle. It's really astonishingly great, wonderful pastries. I mean, the spread of pastries. You walk in and it's just there, and it's a lot of
I
things.
think we should all go up there.
Yes.
and
like
where is
right
this?
now-
Where is this located?
It is on Broadway,
Okay.
in Capitol Hill, kind of the heart of it all.
Sure.
It's just a great. It looks very Argentine. It's like a great place. You just want to while away, the day with some wine and pastries.
Well, thank you so much, Alicia. It's been a pleasure having you on with us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been too long. We'll have you back faster. We need to bring her back faster because she's got too much.
She
too
does
much to
great
talk
radio
about.
too.
I'll come in. I'll come in with a map of places
Exactly.
next time.
We should make an interactive map of Seattle and little dots everywhere.
Yeah.
Alicia's map.
All right, this was Alicia Vermillion from Seattle Met Magazine. And if you haven't had the magazine, you should buy it because obviously you should get your subscription every month.
Oh,
Every
give
month.
it for Christmas.
Yeah,
Christmas
get it
gifts,
for
we gotta-
Christmas.
we
A
got a
great gift
deal.
to somebody. Or go online and go and subscribe to
Yes.
Seattle Met Magazine
Yes,
online.
please.
So it's like at least you will be able to get all its information and more. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, pleasure. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Chef Robert Spalding from Elliott Oyster House about oysters and more. Stay with us on the second hour on Caro 97.3 FM.
You have to
Hoo-ha.
spend- What's your budget per month?
I have a yearly budget, and it's all fine and good until about October when our managing editor is like, "Hey, here's things are standing," and I'm like, "Ooh." So that's why in January, like it rolls over in January. So that's why at the end of the year you see a lot of cheap and cheerful.
Wow, thank you so much.
Oh gosh, there is. And you know what? I've honestly been out in the States,
Chef.
so I haven't been around. What is that Italian deli in Burien? God, again, I'm so embarrassed. You're asking me this really valid question, and there's a place that is in my brain, and it's not.
You want to sit or you want to stand?
I need my phone. I need the internet.
Sit? Yeah, you can sit here or there. There's a chair right there.
Thank you.
So you need to be as close as possible.
Thank you, Alicia. That was fabulous.
That's how you're going to sound the best.
You've got great energy. Yeah. Well, Robert, you charmed Bridget Charters at the Fair Start event.
She's a wonderful person. It was.
Did you know her before then?
I don't think I've met her before. My brain kind of works selectively. I forget things as I learn new things. So,
There's just so much room.
yeah, there's only so much room, and there's a lot of information pouring in all the time. So,
Well, one of the things, and I hope Terry will lead you to touch on it, but she was impressed on just that you knew so many of the producers and so much about the local industry, So if we can get to that.
We will
angle
definitely
as
get to
well
that.
as the, restaurant service. And I saw on the website that your annual event, which is oyster event.
yeah, Oyster New Year. We usually hold it the first weekend of, or the first Saturday of November.
Oh, so we.
First Saturday of what?
November.
Oh,
yeah. It just happened. I think we shucked about 14,000 oysters for that in 4 hours.
You're Korean?
Hi.
Pamela. Have
What's
you
your
met
name?
Terry before?
Green.
Corey, nice to meet you.
You're the GM.
Correct.
Yeah. So she's keeping an eye on Robert.
Is that garde manger?
Definitely not. Talent I don't have.
She helps out when the oyster bar gets busy.
I like how she says, absolutely not. Can't make a salad. You can't make a salad to save your life. What's story? All right. How's everybody? Everybody's good? I forgot to mention earlier, Tom always mentioned that. If you need to go to the restroom, there is a code on the left side. I think it's 1125.
1225.
1225. So that's why I always get stuck outside and never remember the number. What's going on with this door? All right, ready? We are back in the kitchen at the Hotel Andra in the Hot Stove Society kitchen. My name is Thierry Roturo. I'm the chef in a hat. And my co-host today is Miss Pam.
Yes.
Hello, Miss Pam.
It's delightful to be with you.
Tom has forgiven us and he just basically decided to ditch us, more importantly,
Mhm.
and go play golf in Hawaii. So his presence is not here.
But
His presence is in Hawaii.
we're toughening through.
We're holding on the fort for him
Yep.
and pulling through. It's been very simple and easy so far, so we're going to keep it that way.
Thank
All right, we have a
goodness.
second hour coming up, and we're going to be talking Jacques Pépin. We're going to be talking shallots, one of my favorite ingredients, and I love to use everywhere. And also, we're going to be talking first and foremost to Chef Robert Spalding from Elliott Oyster House on Alaskan Way. In case you haven't been down to Alaskan Way in a few years, nothing has changed, except everything has changed.
Yeah, it's so dramatic.
You probably won't recognize the streets, the site, the building. Most of them are gone. It is going to be a gorgeous area when it's all done and finished. Right now, it's still in the finishing point, I'm sure. And I mean, it's still a little bit of a mess, but there's plenty of parking. There's plenty of everything. And Elliott Oyster House is still cranking as big as ever. And most importantly, they do one of my favorite things, lots of oysters.
Yes, many oysters. We just finished up our Oyster New Year, which benefits the Puget Sound Restoration Fund, and we shucked 14,000 oysters for that event.
Oh, I
4
can't
hours.
even.
Now, how many people were shocking?
I would guesstimate about 45 people.
So divide 14,000 by 45. That's a lot of oysters per person.
Did you have to
Wow.
train all the waiters to help you, or where did you find that much help for shucking? Because it's
Yeah.
truly an art to do it beautifully.
It
You end up
is.
in the hospital.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to shuck oysters when I started at Elliott's about 16 years ago, and I got an education quickly. There are only so many mistakes you make until you concentrate and learn how to do it well, and which knives work. And we shuck in our hands usually, so we don't use a towel or a glove or anything like that. And
Wow.
we
That's
very,
macho,
very
Robert.
rarely make mistakes.
Rarely, yeah. And like you said, you can only make so many mistakes because you only have so many hands.
Yes, only so many fingers.
Yeah.
We do pride ourselves on good training, and so our, if we have folks that are shucking oysters and they're hurting themselves a lot, they're not going to want to do it. So we give them a good training right off the bat.
So good idea. I never even thought of this. Let's start from the beginning. I've never seen an oyster. You put one in my hand and you say, shuck it. Now there's a front, there's a back, there's a side.
How to shuck an oyster is almost as diverse and complicated as how to eat one. And it really depends on what society you might be in or around, and or what part of the world or country you're in. So here on the West Coast, we shuck from the hinge, which is where the two shells connect.
Uh-huh.
On the East Coast, typically it'll be from the side or the front of the shell.
Right.
And in Europe, not 100%. I would
They
defer
do
to you on
front.
that.
A lot of it is front.
Sure. Sure.
And so what do you think the reason is for that? Is it because of the shell?
Yeah, I
Strength?
think it's the shell size, the shell strength, and the overall size of the oyster.
Okay.
I think with a really stubby oyster knife, it would be pretty easy to get into a European flat and get it open, and the wide blade would help out with that. But if you're talking about a 6-year-old East Coast oyster that's maybe 8 inches long, it's going to be really difficult to open that with a shorter knife
Right.
and from the hinge.
Correct.
Going in from the side where the adductor muscle, which is what holds the two shells together,
Right.
would be much more economical as far as time goes and energy.
Right. Right. So I'm putting the oysters in my hand. I got the hinge facing out towards the top of my fingers. And then I just take an oyster knife, because that's a special knife. Usually an oyster knife has a guard in front of it. For rookies who have never done an oysters, you use those big guards and you poke into the closure there.
Sure, yeah. You grab the oyster, have the hinge face towards you, then insert the knife into the hinge itself, right where the tip of the knife might go into the oyster, into the hinge, and get a little purchase. And then you start applying a gradual amount of pressure until you feel the knife just kind of give and go partially into the shell. At that point, you want to start moving the knife back and forth
To lift up the
on
shell.
its axis to lift up the shell and loosen the adductor muscle. And at some point, you'll get a little pop.
Do you give classes at Elliott Bay?
We do the oyster shuckers. If you sit at the oyster bar, we'll be glad to teach anybody how to open an oyster.
Because I
That's
think
worth going right there.
I know. I think that many people. I mean, I know for sure that many people don't eat oysters, not because they don't like them, just because they're afraid of them. Like, I mean, that's pretty brave to take a knife and poke through two shells that are tightly closed, right? I mean,
Yeah,
the first time is a little bit of a.
It can
You
be a
know.
little bit imposing. I remember doing it, and I was kind of glad that the knife wasn't sharpened.
Yeah.
It's got a tip on it, but it's not sharpened. But watching a YouTube video and actually seeing it done in front of you are kind of two different things. It gives you a little bit more confidence to see how easy it can be.
Yeah, so I would recommend for anybody to go down to Elliott Oyster House and sit at the bar, order yourself a nice cocktail or even a glass of wine that goes with oysters, and then have them show you how to shuck an oysters. It would be a very interesting class to do, I think. And how many quickly before, because we're going to come back on the next segment, I want to talk about oysters and producer. But how easy is it to access Elliott Oyster House? You open 7 days a week?
Yeah, we're open 7 days a week. We open at 12 o'clock and we stay open fairly late. We do have valet, so you can have somebody park your car if you're worried about parking or getting across the street. It is pretty easy to get across the street from the parking lots on the other side of Alaskan Way, and they will be done shortly with their work finally.
Yeah. And one of the beautiful view, by the way,
Absolutely.
Sunsets are not too shabby down there. They're very beautiful. So
No, they're not.
I recommend it. When we come back, we're going to talk type of oysters and producers that you know so well.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We're going to come back with Elliott Oyster House on Caro 97.3 FM.
Robert had offered to bring oysters, but I said no because it was a radio show. But I was pretty stupid to turn that down because I think we could have had an oyster breakfast.
Yeah, I'll do it for you. In a shin.
Are you guys here daily or just on
Every
Thursday?
Thursday,
Every Thursday. Okay.
9 to 11.
I'll bring you a care package.
Oh, that is so nice.
But I have to share it with my friend.
No, he actually didn't say that. He said he doesn't care. He won't bring any. No, I mean, saying no to oysters,
I know I was stupid.
that's not cool. Not cool at all.
That's on me, folks. I should have brought them anyway.
No, it's okay. You didn't know. All right.
We're back.
We're back in the kitchen on Caro 97.3 FM. We're back in the Hot Stove Society kitchen. And our guest is Chef Spalding from Elliott Oyster House on Alaskan Way, the best house to get as many oysters as possible. And believe me, when they do their annual fundraiser, is it a fundraiser? It's a fundraiser, right?
It is a fundraiser, yes.
Annual fundraiser in November, early November. It's already passed for this year, but next year, don't forget to go down there. 14,000
oysters this year.
14,000 oysters. I can't even imagine what that looks like in bushel, like in bags. Like, how many bags of oysters is that?
About 140.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The
big-
walk-in was
10 dozen
crammed.
bags. Yep. We have big walk-ins and it's a good thing.
Wow.
It was full of oysters.
So, Robert, let's talk about how many type of oysters, first of all, from the area that we have, and then you have at Elliott.
Sure. Right now, we've got anywhere between 20 and 26 oysters on the bar, and they are all
Wow.
from the Washington area, mostly from the Salish Sea. So from British Columbia down to the South Puget Sound.
And even I didn't know there was 26 different kind. Okay, let's name a few then.
Sure. Species wise, we have usually 4 species this time of year. We've got eastern oysters
Uh-huh.
grown by Taylor Shellfish in the South Puget Sound, otherwise known as virginicas. We've got Kumamotos.
Right.
We've got Pacifics, and we've got our native oyster, which is native to the west coast of America, the Olympia
Right.
oyster.
So
Um,
that's 4 different type of oysters. Each one of those, except for the Olympia, produces different type.
Depending on how oysters are grown, the flavor differences and the way they look can be dramatic. Texture, flavor, smell, everything about them can be different based on where they're grown and how they're grown.
And what they eat.
And
Right.
what what they eat really depends on where they're grown. And there are so many different habitats or variances in water and in land where oysters are grown in the Puget Sound region that there's a broad spectrum of different flavors that come up.
So for most people, 6 oysters, which always bug me because I come from I come from France. I come from close to Brittany where we have oysters. And when I first came to the state, I was like going to a restaurant and they're like 6 oysters. And where I come from, 2 dozen is about the minimum you eat. I'm like,
What's
is
with
it with these
6?
6 oysters? I mean, that's like my left tooth is filled up. So what do we do next? I mean, it's, to me, I think oysters is like a minimum is a dozen to 2 dozen
Per person.
per
Sure.
person. Yeah.
Yeah. When I go out, I
mean-
usually eat about 2 to 3 dozen just to
Yeah.
get a real sense. I usually have 2 or 3 of the same oyster, and then I go for maybe 4 or 6 varieties at a time.
Right. So now, if you're a first timer, you're kind of like, don't know for sure if you're going to like oysters. They look kind of maybe creepy to you or not. You go down to Elliott, you watch somebody open them, and you're going to have your glass of Sauvignon Blanc or something of that nature. And what would be your first oyster to try?
People do ask frequently, I've never had an oyster, what should I try? I would steer them towards a Kumamoto, which is a very,
Yes.
it's got some sweetness to it and melon flavors,
Right.
and they tend to be a little bit smaller. So it's not as imposing.
Correct.
It's not like biting an oyster steak.
It's a good place to
I
begin.
think- yeah.
They're manageable and kind.
Yeah. No, I think, and they have a nice cup, which is to me very important in an oyster, is to have a cup so I can have some of that brine. I love swallowing the oysters with the brine, so you have a full effect of the actual oyster in its habitat. If you buy an oyster that has a cup and there is nothing in the cup, you obviously have an oyster that's not very happy right now because it's out of the water, right? I mean,
Correct. Yeah. And that's one of the things about buying oysters is when selecting oysters, if you pick an oyster up, you would like it to be heavy or
Mhm.
dense for the size. If it's not, if it seems kind of light or it sounds hollow when it's tapped on, probably you want to skip that oyster.
and if it's open and you move it like this, you tighten up and it doesn't move,
Run the other direction.
run the other way, buy somewhere else.
Yes.
All right. So now, producers, tell us some of the greatest producers of oysters in this area.
Well, if anyone's listening and I forget you, I'm sorry, but we do have relationships, and these relationships were handed down to me from the people that trained me. Multi-generational oyster farms here in the Puget Sound area, like Hama Hama, Taylor Shellfish, Baywater Shellfish, and many, many more that have been in business since at least the 60s or 70s, if not since the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, I used to buy a ton of Hama Hama. That was really delicious oyster.
Yeah, they're very good. And speaking of sourcing oysters, there are quite a few of the producers here that do mail order as well.
Yeah.
I like to get them at Pike Place Market because they're on ice. I prefer oysters that are on ice as opposed to tanks, although oysters, which are stored in tanks, can be very good. I just like the ultimate flavor that is right from the beach.
Right.
With the
I'm with
brine.
you because I think the tank is a good idea, but there is tanks and there is tanks, and real oyster tank takes a lot.
Yes.
It's very
Does
special.
it dilute the flavor of the juices that are naturally occurring in the oyster? Is that
Yes.
thing?
So because oysters are filter feeders, they will consume the water that they're in. And depending on what that water is like, it can change the flavor of the oyster and change the flavor of what that oyster tasted like when it came out of the water.
Yeah, one thing that I don't know how you feel about this, but one thing that I can't stand is when you go to a restaurant and they wash your oysters. I hate that. It's like, why are you doing this to the oyster? The oyster's just lost all its flavor. I mean, now you have just an oyster. You know, it's like, do not wash your oysters. If you're not capable of doing it, opening an oysters without having some shell in it, or you're worried about shell in it, just run your finger gently underneath. You'll pick up whatever shell is in there. And by the way, if you eat an oyster and there is a little shell in it, that's the
okay.
way Mother Nature works, okay? There are bones in fish, and there are bones in chicken, and there are shells in oysters. But
It's an
get
adventure.
over that and eat the oysters. It's like it's much preferable to eat a little shell, to have a little calcium in your blood than it is to have a washed oysters. That's what I think.
Oysters are a sensory adventure.
Yes, absolutely. It's exactly what it is. And what do you drink with that?
Sauvignon Blanc is good. Muscadet.
Yeah.
Muscadet?
I'm from the Muscadet
absolutely.
country of France. That's the number one accompaniment to Muscadet.
Yes, Muscadet is good because it goes with both Eastern and Pacific oysters. There are some wines that are good with one and not the other, and
Correct.
Muscadet is complementary to both. So
Muscadet grape are Melon de Bourgogne, which is the melon of Burgundy. It's a grape that is grown prominently at the end of the Loire Valley in France. It is producing a very dry white wine, usually nice amount of acids, and that's what makes the marriage with the oysters that is briny.
Magical.
Yeah, that's what makes it so special and so beautiful. It actually works really, really well. You do not want a oaky Chardonnay with an oyster. That is not a good match, at least for me. That's personal opinion, but I just said it on the radio, so now it's my opinion.
Is there a method of cooking them that is popular at Elliott's?
we usually
try to
roast
get
them
them
on 500 degrees or more, so
Oh.
that they cook very quickly. We take the top off, and we do different ones from black bean sauce to scampi butter with Ritz cracker and Parmesan cheese crust. Smoked apple and bacon is really good with some sherry vinegar. Something with a good acid to counterbalance and some sweetness so
Yeah.
that the oyster is complemented.
That sounds delicious. And chowder?
Oyster chowder, I have to say Zin Dwelly from Taylor Shellfish fame and Zin's restaurant in Shelton made the best oyster chowder
She's
I've
been
ever
making it forever.
Oh, really? I haven't
Yeah,
had
that's
this.
a great chowder. I've had it once. It was delicious.
had. I
Super delicious.
lifted the recipe and modified it somewhat for use at Oyster New Year a few years ago, and it's very yummy.
Right. Wow. Well, Chef Robert Spalding at Elliott Bay House. Oh, no, Elliott Oyster House, pardon me. I keep saying Elliott Bay. That's always what I've called it. Elliott Oyster House down in Elliott Bay. And if you haven't been lately or you haven't been, you owe it to yourself as a Seattleite or somebody who lives in this area to go visit and try oysters. 26 different kind of oysters is more than one can eat in one shot.
You can
Unless
try
you're
them.
hanging out with Robert.
Unless you're with me and Robert.
And
We can give it
Terry.
a shot.
Unless you hang out with us. All right.
Thank you
When we-
so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
When
Terry
we come
and Terry.
back, let's talk about Chef Jacques Pépin,
I would love
the
to.
famous French man on TV.
All
On
right.
Caro 97.3 FM.
Anybody have any questions for Robert before we let him go?
Thank you so much, Chef.
Thank you, Terry.
Did he answer all your oyster mysteries?
Yes, as far as oyster knives go, we get lots of questions about that. You will see many oyster knives that look like this. I really don't recommend them for our oysters here on the Pacific. knives like this. This is really for going in through the side of an oyster, a very big oyster. So something about like this that's not too long. That way you have control over it and you're not going to accidentally stab yourself. And hold the oyster in a towel in your hand and that way you won't stab yourself. After opening enough oysters, you'll probably get the confidence after a few dozen to maybe push the towel. If you're like me, you might have a little purple somewhere in your wrist. Just put the towel and the oyster on the table and chuck it up.
I hope not.
Do you have nightmares about climate change and warming water?
Oh, good one, Janet.
You know, it has been committed and has a long-term commitment to trying to be stewards of the environment for sourcing. And oyster farmers have had a tough time with climate change over the last decade, really, 10 or 15 years. And they are coming up with innovative, really smart ways to deal with the issues that they're coming up with. But I do worry. So far, things have been good. Oysters are really good for the environment, actually. They filter up to 50 gallons, maybe 70 gallons of water a day. And so when you add that times millions of oysters, they do a really good job of helping whatever environment that they're in. 1 meter of oysters has 50 meters of surface space to accommodate all the other things that live in the water with oysters. So they make a really good place for young invertebrates and fish to hang out and be safe.
They're good people.
They are good people, and they taste good.
Good people. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. What are we going to talk about, Jack?
Well, his foundation, I think, is such a good place for recipes at his website. And his Instagram is hysterical.
Right.
And
He plays video on Facebook every day.
yeah,
I see them every day.
he had some wonderful chicken. He's got a wonderful how-to on making a perfect chicken recipe with a cognac gravy. That's recipe sound familiar to you?
I mean, I can make.
And
He had
the
potatoes
other-
yesterday.
the other segment I was thinking about, but I'm not educated on this, is to talk about making pâtés and chicken liver mousses from holiday gifts.
Oh, chicken liver mousse. I'm going to do chicken liver mousse.
Why don't you do that?
My grandmother's recipe, that's
Yeah.
killer.
And people could make it now, and it would be such a perfect holiday gift.
Yeah, you can make it. You can plan it. You could go and start buying the liver now.
Yeah,
Because the recipe doesn't need a lot. You could buy your jars,
yeah. Oh,
nice jars and everything.
yeah. So do you want to do that and Jacques Pepin?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
We'll talk. What's the name of the foundation? Jack Pepin Foundation.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And the foundation is it's a non-profit that is meant to provide. I think it's scholarship to.
Sean, our last.
How about if I talk about shallots now and then?
Okay.
What do you want?
Oh
Oh, yeah. Is he here?
Is it one of?
No, I'm going to ask him. He's right there. Gelti, how you doing? Do you have a segment on shallots?
Shallots, it's just under onions.
Okay.
Yeah, the onions are all.
Do you have a story you want to tell us about shallots? What we talking about shallots? An intro to it or no?
Not on shallots specifically, but no, I got a crazy theory on onions and the development of the human brain. screen, but I don't know if that's really complete enough to go on the air right now.
Okay, that sounds like.
Hold that thought.
It's not, the research is not complete.
Yeah. The research is still ongoing. We're trying to secure more
We're
funding.
still doing analysis on the person.
Yeah, we're still attempting to secure
person we
funding
call-
and equipment for
the-
further
The
study.
person that was eating onion every day, we call it analyzing that.
This is the.
Okay.
We're doing a quick pivot on our itinerary because we got ghosted by our last guest. So Terry is going to just regale us with a special recipe that you guys can make for Christmas gift. We're very excited about. You can talk about anything.
I can talk about a lot of things, unfortunately, as my wife would say. All right, we are back in the kitchen at the Hot Stove Society radio show here in the Hotel Andra, downtown Seattle, 4th and Virginia. And as you probably heard, we changed our taping day. So if you want to be live in the audience, it's going to be Thursday, 9 to 11 a.m., that is.
I like it on Thursdays.
I like it on Thursday, too. Breaks the week in half.
Yeah, very nice.
You know, it's hum day somewhere. Maybe not on this planet, but at least here it is. And we love it. And we have a big audience today, surprisingly enough, on the first day of change.
You like it when it's full of beautiful women, don't you?
I love it.
I know it.
I hate to break the news to the listeners, but there is not a single man in the audience.
Terry's
Na, na,
pretty
na, na, na.
happy.
I feel like the rooster. I can't do the Cocorico, but anyway, to stay French, let's talk about a gentleman, a chef, somebody who's been on the air on the TV for many, many years, and who has been a charming man to most, I'm sure, and he's been educating us about very classic French food from a more like a home cooked point of view. I'm sure all of you have heard of Jacques Pépin. Charming man. If you've never met him, he's the sweetest man in the world. Very genuine, true, and he cooks. You know, I don't know if many of you have Facebook. I'm not advertising Facebook. I'm just saying I happen to have an account as a chef in a hat, in case you haven't been. But more importantly, I'm not advertising my stuff. I want to say that Jacques is on Facebook every day. There's always a video of him doing something. It can be how to roast a perfect chicken quickly, how to make 5 different kind of potatoes. He has 5 different kind of potatoes to cook different kind of potatoes. It could be one of his favorite thing, which is to make an omelette. He shows you all these different things, little clips, but it's worth watching because it makes you feel like you can get in the kitchen and cook.
His videos just came to my attention recently that because a friend forwarded one, and I thought he was happily painting his chickens and working on his artwork. Because if you haven't seen, he's got the most inspirational menu book of drawings that he's done over the years for guests at his home, and he does an individual watercolor for the guest list and for the menu. He's so talented. He's got such a depth.
And he paints. He has actually
paints it,
lots
and-
of paintings. Yeah.
Yes, and he's got dishware now, and he loves his chickens. So his newest book is about his chickens. But his foundation releases a video every day, and they are funny and accessible and educational.
Right.
They're spectacular.
And the Jacques Pépin Foundation was created by Jacques and his daughter Claudine, mainly to support different organizations throughout the culinary world in every different community. For example, in Seattle, they support Fair Start. So they raise money and they give some to Fair Start here in Seattle, which is basically a nonprofit organization that takes people and help them get back into society via a training program through the culinary world. So
Very important to the restaurant business.
extremely important to the restaurant business and to every community, because those organizations are all good community organizations to help people get back on their feet for one reason or another via training them. So it's very, very Very cool. So the Jack Pepin Foundation is definitely a place to invest some of your money if you want to donate to something. It's a great cause. But besides that, Jacques Pepin is a wonderful man. And yes, do try to catch his videos. You don't need to be on Facebook. You can be on many different places. Again, go to the foundation and see the videos. They have them down there. They'll drive you to it. And it's very charming to see all these different cooking videos.
What dishes did he make famous that you admired? You said he.
I think the
omelets.
Yeah, I think
were-
the how to make an omelette is very. Julia used to do that, but so does Jacques, and he shows you how to make an omelette. And an omelette in France is what you cook when you have nothing left in the house, and you're in a hurry. And many times for dinners in my house, my mom would make an omelette. 12 eggs, break them down, and they're all from the chicken that are right there on the farm. You make 12 egg omelette, a big omelette. Throw in some onions first, toss the onions, sweat them a little bit, throw in the omelette in there. Lots of butter, because eggs and butter go well together. It's the only reason you have butter in there.
Is it? I think we argued about this last year. Was it Jacques that wants you to cook it super slowly? So most people try to rush through their eggs.
Right. Yes.
But you get a different texture if you're more patient.
Correct. Don't go too fast on cooking your omelette. But when you put your butter in your pan and you sweat your onions, what I do is I remove the onions and I start again with the same pan, put some fresh butter in, and I wait till the butter is a little bit blonde. I don't do white foamy butter. I do blonde because I like the edge of my omelette to be a little bit kind of blondish crispy. And then
Blondish or brown?
blonde
Blonde brown.
blondish. Like blonde brown, yes.
Like this? No.
Yes, like that. Is that brown? Anyway, that's the way I like to do my omelette. But I wanted to touch on something else.
Yeah.
Jacques also makes a chicken liver mousse, and we used to make a chicken liver mousse at Luc. That was pretty famous and very
It was.
adored by a lot of people.
Must
And
have.
it's a very simple recipe for those of you who like chicken liver mousse. I know many people go, oh, I can't eat chicken liver. It's not chicken liver just like that. You buy chicken liver, you put them in a food processor, and you blend them until they're all liquid, right? So now you have raw liquid chicken liver mousse, chicken liver. On the side, you take the same amount of weight. So if you have 1 pound of chicken liver mousse, you take 1 pound of butter.
Whoa.
I always love when people go, oh my God, a pound of butter. How much butter do you think you're going to eat yourself? It's not for you, it's to share into a whole mousse.
Okay, good point.
And you can't buy butter unless you buy a pound. So I don't know what's the big deal about a pound of butter. Anyway, a pound of butter, you melt it down to a medium heat, and then you let it cool off a little bit so it's room temp. And then you pour your butter over your chicken liver, just like that. Salt, a little bit of pepper, and a little bit of, I like to add a little bit of reduced port. So you take some port wine, let's say a cup of port wine, and you reduce it down to a quarter cup. And I add that to my chicken liver mousse, cold, room temp or cold, put it into my food processor. So now you have butter, chicken liver, port, and seasoning, right? Now, the only thing then you can add to that is nothing. You take that, you put it in a terrine mold or into a mold of any kind. You put a water bath around it. You cover the terrine with aluminum foil, and you take your knife in the middle and you poke in the middle and lift up gently so it forms like a tent. And the reason you do this when you cook with aluminum foil, do you know why you do that?
No.
Okay, the answer is the reason you make a tent when you have aluminum foil cooking is because the steam is going to go up and then fall on the side, not back into your dish.
Excellent science.
Just little trick of the trade, we call it. And so you take this whole water bath and the chicken liver, you put that in the oven at 325 degrees for about 30 minutes. You take it out, you lift up the foil, you take the terrine, you keep the terrine in the water for a few more minutes, then you take it out of there. And then once it cooled down, you put it in the fridge. You now have yourself a chicken liver mousse. Now, I put a little port inside the mousse. So what I like to do is on the side is to use a little bit more port with a couple leaf of gelatin into it, melted into it, or ground or powdered gelatin mixed to it. Bring to a boil, let it cool off, and as it's liquid, pour it right over the terrine into your refrigerator. Let it cool off, and now you have a beautiful gelée of port on top of your chicken liver mousse.
That would be so pretty and help protect it.
Oh yeah, it protects it. The reason you put a jelly on top, or in the old days you would put fat,
Mhm.
but today we can put jelly on top. I like to use Sauterne for a jelly, which is a sweet wine.
Oh, that would be so delicious.
Yeah, and it would be clear. So you can also put a couple leaves of tarragon in the middle of that,
Oh, so pretty.
maybe, or parsley if you don't have tarragon. But anyway, the bottom line is the reason I'm giving you this recipe is because it's a great idea to start now and think about gift. Buy those little glass jar, fill them up with your chicken liver mousse, cook it that way, and give those away as a gift.
Your friends are going to be so
For
excited.
the
when
holidays,
walk
you
in
give
with
them
that
a
little
fresh-
appetizer.
You give them a nice little chicken liver mousse.
Nice.
She's looking at me. She's looking at me like, you out of your mind. I'm buying this damn thing. Okay. Well, you can also buy it somewhere. But it's a great idea to create. No, it's much better if you made it. Even if it's not as great, it's a great gift. You made it. All the thoughts that goes into it. That's my idea of
Well,
a
this
gift.
would just be the time to do a mousse or a pate or
Correct.
something because it would last beautifully until
Right.
Christmas.
Absolutely. And if you make a terrine of anything, you've got plenty of slices in there. You make a pate, you get at least 10 to 15 slices in there. You can share that with a lot of people. Or you can make a soup, but it's going to be better if you make a pate.
Thank you.
That's what I think. All right. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about shallots.
Yay!
All right. Looking forward to it on 97.3 FM. You guys look so excited about chicken liver mousse. All of you were like, how many of you would make that? Couple of you, yeah? You guys are looking at me like, I'm never making that. You don't like chicken liver mousse? Have you ever had chicken liver mousse?
I don't, I'll eat chicken liver, once every couple of years maybe, but I would never go vegetable.
So just so you know, this does not taste like chicken liver. Oh, I guarantee you it does not. What it tastes like is something really unctuous, gorgeous. It does have a little flavor of liver, but not liver like chicken liver when you eat them like that. No, nothing like that. This is much more unctuous. It's really delicious. You should try it once. Yeah, you could buy it. No, you could definitely buy it. But making it is, I mean, how hard was that? What did I just say? That was, no.
It's easy.
The only thing you can do is overcook it. So don't put it more than 30 minutes in the oven and don't put it higher than 325. If you put it at 400 or 375, it's going to pop, it's going to boil, and it's going to separate. So it's going to look like broken liver. It's not going to look very pretty. You don't want that. Yeah, chopped liver, exactly. Not pretty, especially when it's cooked and brown and oof. This is why people don't like liver, because their mom used to make it like that. Oof. Even the cat would walk away.
You what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty.
But the brown, the brown only happen once you take it out of the mold. And that's what I'm saying. If you put it in a small jar, you do, let's say, 6 or 8 jars or 10 jars of the chicken liver mousse. As long as you don't take it out of the pot, it's going to stay beautiful. Especially if you put a jelly on top or something to cover it. You could put chicken fat. I mean, you could use whatever you have in the house that could seal the top. But what makes it brown is oxidation, which is air. So once your terrine cools off, if you can put something on top to cover it up, but if it's in a jar, it won't oxidize. It's like canning. All right, ready?
Ready, Freddy.
Shallots, what are we gonna do? Oh yeah, we're gonna fry them. We're gonna saute them. We're gonna roast them. We're gonna caramelize
And
them.
we're gonna make the perfect vinaigrette.
Shallot vinaigrette.
Hmm.
Oh my God. I don't know if I can. All right, we are back in the kitchen of the Hustle Society radio show. We are in the kitchen and we are now gonna attack the subject of shallot.
You know why?
Shallot.
Because since I
Shallot.
started doing the show, and I've learned that it's such a favorite ingredient of yours.
It
It's
is.
almost mandatory in everything that you make.
Well, it's very mandatory if I'm gonna do something with sauce.
Oh,
If I'm
okay.
gonna make a sauce, or if I'm gonna make, something of that nature at the end of a dish, definitely mandatory. If I'm gonna make a vinaigrette or a salad or something, it's such an easy cheat sheet thing to do. You take a shallot, you dice it, and you mix it into your vinaigrette. Let's say you make a red wine vinaigrette, the simplest of all vinaigrette. You take red wine, it's 1 teaspoon of red wine and 3 teaspoons of
Red wine vinegar.
red wine vinegar, pardon me, and 3 teaspoon of tablespoon of oil. So 1 tablespoon, 3 tablespoon, 1 for 3, and that's usually a good ratio. And then salt, pepper. Now from that you can add a little Dijon mustard that would bind it and make it more like a dressing. But a vinaigrette, true vinaigrette, is just liquid and separated, and you mix it at the last minute to add your ingredients to it. Now, shallots, when they're chopped and mixed into that dressing, within a few minutes, because of the vinegar, the breakdowns happen and the flavor comes out. So you now have
It is quick,
it very quick.
the impression that it makes on the vinaigrette.
And the vinegar is what helps to that to break it down. By the way, oil, I learned that from doing arugula salad. Oil breaks down arugula faster than vinegar. Believe it or not, it's true.
I am surprised by that.
I am very surprised too, but that's true.
Hmm.
If you just toss some little green into a bowl with some olive oil, it will melt down and get, kind of cooked almost like faster than if you put in vinegar.
Can I ask a question about the dicing of the
Yes.
shallot? Could you use a microplane instead if your
Absolutely.
chopping skills aren't
Yes.
exacting?
Yes. You can use a microplane, it's going to be very fine and you're going to have juice, which
But
is
that's desirable, don't you think?
that's desirable, but there's a difference between extracting the juice from the shallot versus having the shallot render the juice. If that makes any sense. There's a little bit of a
and
difference.
processing.
I mean, it's kind of having a slice of lemon versus squeezing a lemon juice. It's a little bit different of a flavor, mostly because you have texture and you have the shallot itself, the meat of the shallot flavor,
Yeah, that is a different impression that
Yeah.
it makes.
which is why we don't recommend, Tom will tell you that we hate those garlic press thing.
You don't like them either, but your wife does. I know.
My wife loves it. She actually bought one a couple of years ago. I was like, what in the world did you buy that for? She said, well, the other one was old. And I go, I know. I was about to toss it in the garbage.
Maybe she needs a knife lesson.
No, she won't. She says, you do whatever you want. I do whatever I want. Does that sound like
That's
my
why
wife?
They have a
Sounds like
happy
my wife.
marriage.
No, anyway, shallots.
Back
The
to
other reason I
shallots.
like shallots is because they're a great tool to add to any dish. You're doing a chicken leg cooked, in brown butter, finished in the oven. By the way, advice: when you cook a chicken leg, it usually takes so much longer, right? If you cut an incision at the kneecap, or what looks like the kneecap, if you cut an incision through that, your chicken will cook much faster, and it won't be bloody around the bone. And many people get disgusted by the fact that there is blood in animals. I always go, how do you? I always laugh at that because I'm like, how do you think they survive? But anyway, yeah,
Tell me more about the cut. So, are you going
you
into
cut
the
you
bone?
cut right here.
Okay, we're on radio, so tell them.
So you cut at the kneecap
Yeah.
or at the knee. When you
Are you
have,
trying to break the joint apart?
I'm trying to break the meat and the joint apart. Yes.
Okay.
So then each one of those pieces of meat cook on their own versus when they're attached, takes much longer to cook that area against the bone. So if you cut incision on both sides, You'll have it loose, and it will cook faster.
Nice.
Now, shallots, back to shallots. Peeled is usually how I like my shallots. And then sliced thin is the other way to do a shallot. And I like to fry them in just a little bit of oil, preferably like peanut oil is a good oil, but an oil that can resist a little bit to heat because you're going to be cooking with it. And I like to put it in the pan when the oil is about mid-heat. Throw in your shallots in there. Watch them fry gently. You don't want to go full blast because it will burn. Shallots is full of sugar, so it's not full of sugar. It has sugar, just like any onion. It will burn before it cooks. And the secret of good frying is to cook before you burn. You actually don't want to burn, but you want to cook. So you want to put your shallots in there, medium heat, and watch them fry. And you see they're fried. You pull them out as soon as they get dark blonde. You don't want to go any further than that because it will keep on cooking a little bit and burn. As soon as they're down to that color, you take them out, spread them down on a piece of paper towel or on a rack, whichever you have in front of you or you have available. Let them sit and then keep them on top of your stove or close to your stove and then use them as a finishing garnish or in a salad or on a piece of meat or on a piece of fish. It is scrumptious.
How long will they
Delicious.
last? I'd like to
They
do
will
a
last at
lot
least 2-3 days.
at once.
2-3 days.
Okay. They'll maintain their crispiness.
They will maintain their crispiness if they don't go down to cold and then back to hot. So if you keep them on top of your stove in your kitchen, it will be more than fine. It should be, especially if you cook them well and drain them well, they're not full of fat. If they're full of fat, they will have a tendency to want to sink in. But if you drain them properly, they're perfectly fine. They dry well and they stay on top of your stove. You could also put them in a container, keep them right there in your kitchen, but for a couple of days. And you can use it again. If let's say you're steaming a piece of fish with broccoli and everything. It's such a great contrast of flavor to add something that is fried and sweet at the same time. And by the way, your shallots need a little seasoning of salt or a little spice rub. You could do.
Oh, nice plug. Thank you.
Well, it's not. No, I'm not trying to plug Tom's spice rub. I'm telling you that it's actually a great touch, especially if you take the peri peri, which has a little heat to it. You take a little bit of that peri peri and you just put it on top of your shallots that has just been fried. It will stay there, and then when you use that on top of your steamed fish or your even just steamed vegetable, and you put that on top of that, it's a great combination. Imagine steamed broccoli and shallots that have a little peri-peri on it, and put that right on top of your broccoli. Just that will be a great enhancer. On top of that, you drop a little bit of beautiful olive oil. You're home. Whoa, you got a great dish.
Do you have time for your favorite sauce with shallots?
My favorite sauce with shallots is white wine, shallots sliced, reduced down, a little bit of veal stock or chicken stock, reduce that down again, nugget of butter, put that onto anything you want.
Hallelujah.
Anything. So sweat the shallots first. It's important. Sweating means you put them in the pan with a little fat and you cook them gently until they're translucent and soft. Then you add the wine. You reduce the wine. When I say reduce down, I mean put a cup of wine, reduce down to almost like 1/8 of a cup. So reduce down a lot. Cook it down. And then add your stock and do the same thing with the stock. So now you have something that has a little density to it. And then you put a big nugget of butter in there, whisk it in,
That's
salt
the
and
other
pepper.
thing. A nugget of butter needs to go in just about every recipe if you're cooking with Chef
If
in
you
the
can't
Hat.
have butter, use olive oil. That's my context. Same way.
Butter.
Yeah, exactly. So don't forget, use shallots. They're delicious. All right. Thank you so much. Where were we?
Saying thank you to our audience and
yeah.
sending them on their way.
Oh, never mind. By the way, Sean, as in Sean in the studio, I do believe I announced
Julian.
Julian at
now
the beginning
he's talking to
of the show.
editor at Cairo that
If you could
fixes our bloopers.
omit that, if there's a way to omit that, that would be great. All right, if you want to be part of the show, You can join the community on YouTube live at Tom Douglas and Company on Thursday morning from 9 to 11, or you can buy a ticket and join us here in the kitchen at the Hot Stove Society. So don't forget, you too can be part of the show. You're listening to the Hot Stove Society show on Carol Radio 97.3 FM. This show is produced by Pamela Inkley, also known as Miss Pamela. Sean McFadden is our technical wizard right there in the corner. And our essential editor, especially when I'm doing it, Sean DeTore. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Make me look good. Also, remember, if you miss any episode of our Hot Stove Society radio show on Carol 97.3 FM, you can listen via podcast. Just subscribe to your favorite app. Thanks for listening and have a fabulous weekend.
Yay.
All right, let me see this.
We have one little task to record the promos that Cairo uses to promote the show, but it just takes a minute.